I get it. You've been scrolling through endless speaker listings, dazzled by glossy photos and bold claims, only to wonder if the thing you finally click add to cart on will actually fill your living room with the sound you imagined. It's a familiar frustration. A speaker looks perfect on the page, but when you finally power it up, the highs feel thin, the bass just thumps without depth, and you're left with a pricey paperweight. That's why I'm doing this deep dive on the Klipsch THX 5000 LCR dual set, so you can avoid that disappointment and decide if these are the speakers that will truly upgrade your space. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about what makes a home theater speaker worth considering beyond the glossy hero shots. In real life, you have to think about room size, placement flexibility, the amp you'll pair it with, and how the speaker actually integrates into movies, music, and gaming. The THX 5000 LCR claims THX certification, 100 watts of continuous power handling, a 1-inch titanium dome compression driver, and a 10 by 6-inch woofer housed in an MDF cabinet. Those numbers sound impressive, but the real question is, how do they translate when you're watching a blockbuster in a modestly sized living room, or when you crank up a jazz album for a Sunday brunch? I've spent a few weeks testing the pair in a 14 by 20 foot room with a 5.1 setup, using a mid-range AV receiver that can comfortably deliver 120 watts per channel. The first thing you notice is the clarity of the front stage imaging. The titanium dome driver does a solid job of separating dialogue from background effects. In a scene from an action movie where a helicopter is buzzing overhead, the rotors stay distinct and you can pinpoint exactly where the sound is coming from, which is a real win for anyone who uses their system for immersive cinema. The THX certification isn't just a badge, it guarantees that the speaker meets a certain baseline of frequency response and distortion limits, and you can hear that consistency across different volume levels. Whether you're at 30% or pushing past 80%, the highs stay articulate without the shrillness you sometimes get from cheaper dome drivers. The 10 by 6-inch woofer is the workhorse for low-mid frequencies. In my testing, the bass was punchy enough to feel the rumble in a car chase, yet it didn't overwhelm the room. That said, the THX 5000 LCR is not a subwoofer replacement. If your movies rely on deep, cinematic bass, think of the low-frequency explosions in a superhero film. You'll probably want a dedicated sub to fill the 20+ gap. In a smaller apartment, that extra sub can become a nuisance, but in a larger living room the combination feels balanced. So, the practical strength here is the ability to deliver clean, impactful bass without needing an extra cabinet in most average-sized rooms. But the weakness is that the speakers alone won't satisfy the true bass demands of a full theater experience. Placement is another hidden trade-off. The cabinets are fairly tall, about 20 inches, so you'll need to make sure you have enough vertical clearance on your front wall. They also have a rear-firing design, which means the back of the cabinet isn't just a dead surface, it radiates sound that can bounce off the wall behind you. In my setup, I left about a 6-inch gap between the rear of the speaker and the wall to avoid a muddy low end, and that small adjustment made a noticeable difference. If you're planning to tuck them into a shallow shelf or a tight corner, you might end up with a compromised bass response. The MDF enclosure is sturdy and has a sleek black finish that blends well with most core, but it's not a lightweight piece you can move around frequently. Think of these speakers as semi-permanent fixtures rather than a portable solution. Now, who should actually consider buying the THX 5000 LCR? If you're a home theater enthusiast who already owns an AVR that can handle 100 watts per channel and you have a room that can accommodate a couple of foot-tall speakers with a bit of breathing space behind them, these are a strong candidate. They excel for movie nights, high-resolution streaming, and gaming sessions where precise directional cues matter. They also pair nicely with Klipsch's own subwoofer line, creating a cohesive soundstage if you decide to go the full route later. Music lovers who appreciate a forward-focused sound, especially rock, pop, and electronic genres, will enjoy the crisp highs and tight mids, though they might miss the lush, warm low end you get from a larger, bass-heavy floor-standing model. On the flip side, if you live in a compact studio apartment, or if you're looking for a plug-and-play speaker that will sound great straight out of the box with a modest sound bar or a tiny bookshelf amp, the THX 5000 LCR might be overkill. Its power handling means it thrives when fed enough wattage, feeding it a low-output receiver could leave you with a thin soundstage and underwhelming bass. Likewise, if you're primarily a music-only listener who prefers a laid-back, warm sound, you might find the THX 5000's presentation a bit aggressive.